It's November.
It's November. Wow, can't believe it already. And we've got a guy called Neil.
We're in the run into
I
Christmas.
was going to say Neil Diamond.
And we're on the Dawson Special Show.
We've got Neil Dawson.
Neil Diamond in for Christmas.
Neil Dawson. So we have Neil Dawson.
Which Neil Dawson do we have in?
Well, all will be revealed.
Okay.
But I'm imagining you two might look at each other and I might go, oh my God, two Dawsons together. Is that like a kind
Double
of...
Dawson.
Double Dawson. Double Dan and Double Dawson. So very excited to have Neil, one half of Neil.
Cousin Neil.
And Cousin Neil. One half of Neil and Clive, legendary creative team, but now Neil's on his own, got his own company. Fucking hell, just loads of stuff to talk about. Probably via VW quite a lot.
This probably could have been a two-parter.
I know. But he's quite a chatterer.
We've got a lot of work to get through.
So I'll try not to go off piste and talk about fucking figs or cake or tea or stuff like
can
that.
you try? How's your
Sorry,
back,
mate.
by the way?
Yeah, it's all right. I literally need to get up in a minute. Been sat on my arse, working actually quite a lot. So I'll put that out there. Okay,
Right.
go get him.
Neil, see, I can see him. He's waving. He's not waving. He's
Drawing. It looks like he's drawing. Is he drawing something?
drawing.
I'll go and get him. Neil A Dawson, art director, creative director, agency founder, two-time Cannes Grand Prix winner, among many other accolades. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
So,
welcome.
Neil, the first question I have to sorry, I'm going to go into fits of laughter because we've already done this outside the booth. Right, this is how the script was going to go. I have to ask you straight away, Neil, what's with the A? As in Neil A. Dawson, Archie, Andrew, Archibald, Algernon.
Well, you're very good. Archibald, actually.
Archibald.
Yeah, my grandfather's name, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. And dare I ask, is this because there's confusion with another Neil Dawson at Wonderman Thompson, the famous strategic?
I'm not familiar with him. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one Neil Dawson.
So the football chant goes, there's only one Neil Dawson.
Neil A. Dawson.
When I did turn up at TBWA, that's what Paul Silvan chanted. There's only two Neil Dawsons.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, so I came upon... That sounds disgusting. I started working with... When I went to
This has started
TBWA,
well.
I became aware there was another Neil Dawson, which affected his email as well as mine. So we had to have new emails so that if you did email the company, you had to be particular about which one you were looking for.
Right.
And the benefit that I had was that I got all his air miles, which
Yes.
I did keep telling him.
Which you spent on holidays. Still going.
Absolutely. I was just a bit annoyed. He didn't fly very far. All these European flights doesn't really accrue as many
Okay.
air miles as I was looking for.
And is it true that your father's name is Dan Dawson
Indeed.
and you're Dan Dawson?
I am
I'm
Dan
looking
Dawson.
at the Dan.
Yes. Very odd. I haven't told
Two
my mother
Dawsons
yet.
and a Todd in a
She would
booth.
She would be spooked by that. Yeah, my dad was. He was actually Richard Daniel Dawson, but he was known as Dan
Right.
by everyone throughout his adult life.
Right. Okay. We should also say there's a Daniel Dawson who's a dentist in.
Southwest London,
South
somewhere
West
Battersea,
London.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he's Daniel M. Dawson,
Yeah.
and I get his free
Right.
samples of toothpaste to my house.
I get air miles. You've got toothpaste.
Yeah,
I think that says it all, doesn't it?
We should do the Dawson family tree at some point, but maybe not on this
yeah,
show. We'll probably work out where
I should have
we're at.
brought. I should have brought mine in. My grandfather did the Dawson
really?
family tree right back to the 1500s.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I could bore you with that.
Well,
I'll bring it
we can
in.
work it out.
There's an idea for a TV show.
Yeah, it's not great for a
I
podcast.
think that's already a TV show.
So, Neil A. Dawson, we have
Yes.
to ask you, how's it going and what have you been up to lately?
Well, starting my company
Yes.
in 2019, obviously in June, I think.
Technically called Neil A. Dawson and Company or Partners or something?
Neil A. Dawson and Company, yeah.
And Company. And how's it going?
And it's been wonderful.
Good.
I mean, despite the fact there's a fucking great global pandemic right in the middle of it.
Asterisk.
But yeah, it's when I talk about why I set the company up, it totally selfishly, I wanted to carry on doing the work that I loved, the work that I did the type of work I did at BBH or DDB or any of the other good agencies that I worked at. That and my ex Philips client is now the head of A6 Europe, and he called me and said, I've got this pitch. Do you fancy getting involved? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he said, so it's quite sizable pitch. You're up against Ogilvy. I said, well, I'm thinking about starting this company where I just bring in all the right people at the right time. I said, London probably doesn't need another full service ad agency.
Yeah.
And he said, I really like the sound of that. Yeah, do that. Set up your company and help on the pitch. And I've worked with A6 Europe ever since.
Wow.
So were they the founding client?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, because you've got quite a few now, haven't you?
Well, I've worked, it's all project by project. Right. But I mean, one of my favourites was working on Nested, the estate agents, because that was a pitch against other agencies, and the client bought into my type of setup.
Yeah.
As opposed to an established agency.
Do you think there's a bit of a shift from certain types of clients looking at that boutique startup agency rather than going into massive agency network now? Do you feel like that's a trend?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely clients I think are more prepared to go with far smaller sort of business entities than the reassurance of a big agency.
So they're taking the risk to do that?
I think in their own minds, it depends on the client.
Yeah, sure.
My A6 client is an extremely confident marketeer.
And you'd also built trust over a number of years working with them.
5 years on Philips, yeah. But he's the type of person, he would never use a pitch consultant, for example. He just it's part of my job to know who's good, and so he would never spend money on a pitch consultant. So when you've got a client like that, then who go, right, I'm more than happy. And also, he's a good strategist as well. So he feels like he can confidently come to a creative agency with a fully formed brief and
opinion of what's
great creative work. Yeah.
Do you have any people on like retainer? Obviously, it's your agency, but do you have a planner and a suit, etc., or do you literally go every time? I'll just pick people up.
The latter every time, just pick people up.
But are those people they're first pencil sort of thing for you, or they're always that thing with are they ready to go? Because if you go, oh shit, I haven't got mine.
Well, and I think that when you get to, I think I'm the oldest person in the room. When you get to my age,
no, Hugh's 94.
Just a lot of skin cream.
And when you've worked at some of the best agencies, in town in the world, then what you do have is a really good network of people.
Yeah.
And what I always try to deliver to clients as well is great work first time.
Yeah, yeah.
And you get a lot of that you get from experience.
Yeah.
So and it all depends on what the client wants. I worked on Pernod Ricard. They specifically wanted Gen Z creatives working on the business.
Fair enough.
And and actually, D&AD helped me out because they have a Youngblood. It's not Youngblood. Is it Youngblood? Yes, it is.
Youngblood, yeah.
Yeah, I just went and looked at who'd won Youngblood and called them up the year before.
Yeah.
So
simple.
All depends on. But for the most part, knowing really great talent, people who can really write and who can art direct and who can direct.
Yeah. I think that's and do you say you need strategic thinkers? Do you get pitches like that as well, or
sometimes? I mean, I think that's the difference when it goes back to what the type of clients we're talking about, because some might not be confident enough to come straight to a creative agency. But what I've done now is actually I've teamed up with a company called the Value Engineers, who do all fantastic research and strategy. And have done for like 20 years. So I can, if that's what a client needs, then that's what we can deliver them. And for me, what's great is they can provide the understanding, the knowledge and the insights. I want to make my work as absolutely as powerful as possible. I want it to be laser focused, laser guided, so that, the creativity works as hard as it possibly can. Because I think there's that whole thing of, creativity for its own sake, and people feel like creatives are just sounding off a bit, but actually not. We all want it to be as absolutely as as effective as possible.
Yeah. Do you like the freedom of what you're discussing, right? Because you've worked in. I was looking at your list of places you've worked. It's quite dizzying at times, but that thing you go. right, it's quite nice to be more the master of your own destiny rather than being in the big fat machine, you know.
I mean, it all comes with its.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, if you're master of your own destiny, you've also got to be on broadcast the whole time. You've got to be looking for the next thing every single moment of the day. You don't switch off in terms of that. But I love it.
Yeah.
For me, in terms of, you know, the big agencies, one thing, they've shrunk.
Yeah.
And they've shrunk particularly for the older generation of creatives who generally get brought into.
Yeah.
What seems to be the case is, and I haven't freelanced for a long time, but is actually, you know, agencies sell themselves to clients on youth and energy and getting all, but actually they still bring in seasoned creatives to crack big ideas to feed into their agency system. So it's a little bit of a weasel.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, those seasoned creatives get squeezed in terms of time and money. And I'm, you know, I fortunately, by going direct to client, I'm not being squeezed by an agency. I'm just going, they want great work. Here's my website. Here's what we've done before. You know, we've done, whether it's alcoholic drinks or airlines or sports brands, whatever.
Yeah.
If I haven't worked on it, I know somebody who's done, you know, Richard Russell, the most famous, most awarded car ad in the world ever in advertising history. Yes, we can get him. Yes, we can work with him if you like.
Great.
So, you know, that type of...
We have a regular feature called the Billboard at the end of my street, which we are looking at. Is that the end of your street there? Is that lady with a buggy?
It made me realise how few billboards there are in Leighton Buzzard. Because that's about as closest...
where is Leighton Buzzard? Sorry.
Half an hour outside of Euston. It's in Buckinghamshire, Bedfordshire border.
Okay.
Yeah. I live in a little village near...
is it posh? Is there people in
it's a
Range
market.
Rovers?
It's a market town. No.
Right.
I lived in Harpenden for the last 20 years, which is... I'd say it's snobby rather than posh, but it's on the train line that goes into
It's on
the
the
city.
St Albans line. Yeah.
Sorry,
St Albans line. So it's a lot city boys.
Well, I think
It's a
lots
strange
of-
format, that one as well, that billboard.
It is, isn't
a
it?
square format billboard.
Yeah, and it's certainly not posh, is it?
There's
it
nothing
looks
posh
like a
about
locally owned...
Should we read it? Do you,
Pizzeria.
do you want to read out the headline, Neil? So
I can't see it from here.
Okay,
Could you?
I'll read it. And I'll tell you what, as headlines go, it's up there, boys. All our 12-inch pizzas, $5.95. And then there's a logo, Amore Pizzeria.
Is the shop next to it? Is it a billboard for a shop? That's,
I don't know.
No, I don't think it is.
it's not.
No, that
Okay.
used to be. It used to be the post office. That
Right.
Right. So,
I think it's across the road. The that pizza.
what are you thinking about
So
that,
It
Neil?
is local advertising. And I
mean-
imagine the media owner is a local media owner as well. Someone's got...
Is that, it's obviously not going to certainly awards jury on fire, but it does what it says on, I was going to say on the tin.
So, you know what? I think there could be a category.
I mean,
We've had worse.
you were. The choice was about how close it was, rather than how good it
And,
was.
you know what? We use this as a vehicle to just talk about the state of the industry.
Yeah.
And actually, Leighton Buzzard is probably not up there in the media planners' world when they're thinking about where to place the next Nike ad.
I think you might be right.
Not
there.
yet. Not yet. No.
But local advertising has a place, and it's a big
Yeah.
portion of the out-of-home market in the way that it used to be in cinema, where you've got adverts for local curry house. But the interesting thing about this thing, though, is it looks like a Domino's pizza ad.
I know,
'Cause
that's just what I was
when I looked at it
thinking.
from this distance, and it was quite far away from me, my eyes are getting worse. But I was thinking, red
the
blue
colours.
pizza. There's the Domino's.
It's that Paul Arden thing.
Yeah.
90 metres brand.
But the
90 foot, sorry.
But I'm not fussy. If that I love outdoor, and if that was the site, and you got to do a great piece of work on it, fantastic.
Then you should do it.
Yeah.
So going back to the reason for the segment is you're here today and not in Leighton Buzzard, and you've been around town. When you're out looking at and absorbing out of home advertising, is the current state of the market play for you as a creative as you wander around looking at what's out there? What do you think the state of our industry is right now?
You can swear as well. It's fine.
I mean, it's a shame. I mean, the only sort of good outdoor, I don't really see it in real life. I only see it through social media, through LinkedIn or whatever. Somebody highlights something that, and a lot of that because there isn't very much of good stuff around, and also people will do one as a stunt and then to be shared on social media.
Yeah, and then iterate.
I haven't, in situ seen anything that sets the pulse rating, to be honest.
And what about from this year's award shows? Have you seen anything that you've thought? I would put that in my book. That's the benchmark.
Not anything that springs to mind immediately, unfortunately. What were the big winners?
BA won massive at Cannes, won Grand Prix for Uncommon.
Am I allowed to say I'm not a fan?
You can say what you like.
Massive fan of that.
It's your opinion.
I'm a massive fan of Nils and what he, as an agency, but I don't know. It
didn't ring your bell.
No, I'm afraid it didn't. No, and I see it's now going on TV, and it's
they've extended it to TV.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think they've made it moving.
Yes.
Which I kind of like the way they've evolved it. I mean, I'm sort of a really big fan of it. I do like it, but that's the joy of this show and creativity about liking and not liking. I mean, there's the other stuff because we always try and pick up on big campaigns on our Insta feed. Like, so that Heathrow is another one, which Rich Denny is doing at St. Luke's, which is a sort of campaign that's out there. There's Specsavers, where they fucked up the posters, the hearing aid stuff. I mean, there's certain things we pick up on and we put out there and see what people say. It's funny, actually, what people latch onto. So Lupin, I don't know if you know that TV show. So a couple of listeners sent us that saying, "Oh, I've seen this. This is great," and it's just the sort of watch mark of where it's been.
Yeah,
it didn't get very many likes on the Instagram feed, which I thought was strange. Whereas another campaign we put up, I didn't think would get much, and it got fucking loads. And I know, a small amount of likes and a little thing like we do, but it is interesting as a barometer of what people do and don't like, and what and what's out there. I think there's less out there at the moment.
The one, I don't know whether it was ever outdoor. It certainly was the shape of outdoor. Was that World Wildlife Fund Twitter?
Oh,
the death of the Twitter logo.
Well, the evolution, and then it made it X or something.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Which was definitely sort of 48 sheet shaped. It was from Germany, I think.
Yeah, go on. Did you like that?
Oh no, I didn't.
Didn't you rubbish it on LinkedIn? Quite a few people jumped in and said this will do nothing. Oh no, that was the.
I said what I thought wasn't very good about it.
It won't change anything, is it? What was the one also with the animals, the sort of paws over their eyes, and everyone went, "Oh, look at this," and people are going, "It's just going to do nothing for the animal kingdom."
Well, I think when you go back to before social media days, is that you wanted an action to happen, and that action couldn't just be somebody pressing like.
Yeah,
and I think it's because I work on a conservation charity called Wild Aid. It's now Wild Africa Fund,
right? And
they have literally made shit happen, and it's with when it was about shark's fin soup in Asia, or pangolins or elephants, ivory trade. They've actually. Their line is about when the buying stops, the killing will too.
Right.
And they've done direct campaigns to stop the purchase of these things. So if I see another ad that's like, going, killing elephants is wrong and bad, which is what a lot of these freaking ads do.
Yeah.
You go, if you still have no idea that actually poaching ivory is a bad thing, if that's all it is, that's all you've done is tell people that, then it's rubbish, isn't it? And the whole idea of that ad was not all birds are, it's about extinction of certain birds, wasn't it? It's like, and it didn't tell you anything new. It told you birds were subject to extinction like animals. no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
And didn't tell you anything meaningful that you could do to change that.
No.
But everybody's going, yeah, but we're all talking about it. Yeah, but are we doing anything about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
There was another brilliant thing. Sorry I'll just rattle through it. When I was in the States, about people found out, people are very much against guns and the financing of guns. But what people didn't realise was that their pensions, they're called 401k in the States, was investing in firearms manufacturers.
Wow.
And most people didn't know.
Shit.
And what they also didn't know was that rather than just sleepwalking into investing for that, or I don't know, tobacco or whatever stuff that you might not want to invest in, that you could actually write and say,
ethical 401k investments only, yeah.
And there's a whole campaign going, unload your 401k.
Yeah.
And you go, that's great. Yeah. That is something meaningful that people can do, which
and
you don't do
when the investment stops, then they make less bullets, make less guns, make less guns.
They go out of business.
Yeah.
It's
Kids don't die at school. That's wow.
It's just, that's making things happen. It's not going like on LinkedIn and thinking, one, you've done your job. And I would love to know, and I'd love to be proved wrong that Twitter ad meant that there was a spike in donations to WWF,
it's not, though, isn't it?
Or membership or anything like that.
You mentioned earlier on about creative effectiveness and what does that mean? And I think, unfortunately, for some marketeers, it means, am I part of a conversation? If that is if the benchmark is a number of likes or the engagement on a post, they tick the box, they move on, they go to the next campaign, rather than action and rather than driving.
But sadly, I imagine that is.
But this is the nature of the media market that we're playing in, right? Is that you've got the clutter of formats, of visual formats that you're swiping through, and then out of home you are magazines, you've got TV, you've got VOD, you've got display,
and on top of that, also, I mean, there was one fellow who I'm sure is a very nice man, but he's got his own advertising creative magazine, who held this up as a sort of high watermark of creativity, and because they were moving the conversation on. And I go, we haven't moved anything on. And looking through his history of what gives him the right to have a creative and this very big point of view about it. Well, there wasn't any creative history to it. He doesn't work at any good agency. He doesn't have a portfolio of great work to actually justify. So moving the conversation, I don't think it moves anything on.
Yeah.
It's all that fucking echo chamber of meanwhile, animals are still getting slaughtered and nothing changes whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's what frustrates me. I think to just, I mean, Birnbach used to talk about people should think the product's not clever. The product's clever, not we're clever. And I think that was a classic example of, oh, look, we found a visual coincidence or a coincidence. Yeah. How do we use it?
Topical, quick.
Yeah, because that American thing is brilliant for that. Because that's just like someone's found that out and then told people. They haven't actually put an advertising campaign in the way of it. Well, the advertising campaign is just information. Yeah, which is quite often the best thing, isn't it? It's just don't get in the way.
So let's get on to some more effective advertising then, and let's talk about your first ever billboard.
There you are.
Oh, wow. So it's a classic. It's so much of a classic that I haven't kept a copy of it.
Did you have that in there already?
No, I've
or did you take a photo?
I've taken a photo. I've uploaded it. Mate, I'm a fucking tech wizard.
You didn't do that.
I did.
You didn't.
I did. He's
good. He's good.
Wow.
Osmosis.
My mind is blown. You've even made it into a PDF already.
I've cropped it as well.
Not a chance.
You were in the original, Neil. So Neil has turned up, can I say earlier than us, cup of tea.
Sharpie.
And we found him, like every good ad man, writing an ad on a blank page. And it was a visualizing of your very first billboard.
Indeed.
Shall I read it out?
Please do.
The visual is of a man carrying a Sanyo. What is it?
Portable fax machine.
It's a portable fax machine. I couldn't tell that from the drawings. It's just a box.
It looks like a briefcase.
It says the new Sanyo fax machine in action.
In action.
So in action is the gag. 'Cause it's mobile. I have to say it's pretty good. Some people come on and go, "Oh, I can't find it. Yeah, I can't remember what it was." Or yeah, I think it was a gold winner. Can. So
I'll piss off.
this is very good. Really well rendered. Tell us about this. Where were you?
Well, so my first agency was Leah Burnett.
In London.
In London. I won I won my job in a young copywriters competition.
Good lad.
It's the equivalent of winning X Factor, right?
A little bit like that. Well, it was a bit odd because I was an art director. So, and what they really liked was, he's very succinct with his copy. I tried to write as little as possible.
Yeah.
So that got me second place, and I ended up working with the guy who came first. So anyway, that lasted about 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And fortunately, the very talented Richard Russell was also in the department, and we got on quite well. And I went to work with him.
Richard Russell, should remind our listeners, did many things.
Honda
Gur, probably after Guinness Surfer, probably the greatest ad of all time.
No, he didn't do Guinness Surfer.
No, after.
Oh, sorry, after Guinness Surfer.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
the most awarded commercial in advertising history.
Yeah. So we can start a debate: Honda Gur or Guinness Surfer. Neil's just blowing his cheeks out. Thinks it's an old VW dad. He did.
No, I always say with Richard, actually, it was to avoid the question.
Good.
Was the Biactol twins commercial that we both did together.
That's the best.
Yeah, I keep whenever it comes up with Honda Girl, I go, well, personally, I thought
Richard,
Biactol twins
and you get people rustling through paper.
Shaded it. Because Biactol twins was actually the first commercial either of us had ever done.
Right.
And actually, there's a sort of neat segue between that and this, is that I did my first commercial with Dickie, and you show it to your toughest audience, your mates.
Yeah.
And I had a VHS, took it home, and I went, I made a freaking advert. Well, look at this. And it got a good laugh, and it was funny. It was moving pictures and Stephen Fry and all that.
Great.
And this is great, absolutely fantastic. And then about a month later, I'm in the pub with my mates from school again, and we've just done this Sanyo poster. It's on 200 sites in London. And there happens to be one outside the Boozer where we are. And I went, lads, you'll never guess, I've done another ad.
Perfect.
So went outside and they all looked at it. They went, that's the most boring fucking ad I've ever seen. Why don't you drag us out in the cold to see that shit? And
harsh,
but
fair.
But fair.
I think it's...
And apologies to Richard, obviously, who's part of this. But I think for me, whenever I'm talking to young creatives, it's like, just because you've done an idea that's on brief doesn't necessarily mean you should still make it. I learned this at BMP working for Jeremy Craig, and particularly on TV commercials. He went, yeah, that's bang on brief, but fuck me, is it boring? And that would go straight through the shredder.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'd even get you to hold the other corner and go, come on, let's shred it together. So,
okay.
the whole, it's in action because you can see it being carried. So it did do its job, but I think it might have been missed.
No, it's good. Thank you so much for
doing. That was at Leo's.
That was at Leo's, yeah.
So
go on then.
Yeah, we're going to jump right into. We're going to have to either speed you up, ourselves up, or slow ourselves down, depending on how well this goes.
Okay.
So on the work, because Dan knows and everyone knows, I have to do it on a timeline because I'm an idiot and I can only work in a timeline.
Helps me, yeah.
You started at Leo's. We've just established all of that. Your first brilliant billboard, what we're going to feature, is for Atlantic 252. So that was at Leo's, is that correct? Yep. And here we are, and it's. Can you describe it? It's bloody good. It's still funny now.
So Atlantic 252, they're based in Ireland, and it was all about more music, less talk. There was a number of executions, but this was our favourite. And it's a DJ with a cassette jammed in his mouth. Gary Bryan was the photographer.
Thank you.
And it was my award-winning poster, actually. Before I went to any award show in London, I went to the Clio's in New York.
Oh,
yeah, they were looking for courier to go and collect an illustration for a NatWest ad. My ears pricked, and I went, "I'll go, as long as I can go to the
Yeah.
So I went as a 21-year-old creative.
And this was with Richard, you did this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And went to the Clios. Because I was going there, they said, oh, so-and-so's one. Well, can you collect his? And I turned up, didn't know anyone.
Right.
By the end of it, I had so many friends. I was like, the one from Singapore. I kept saying, this is not mine and that's not mine. It's only this one. And nobody was listening.
Yeah, Neil, you
just got a handful of trophies. Everyone's going,
yeah.
Well,
this guy's good, isn't he?
I tell you what, they had a band. They had a band, a full orchestra. I don't know whether it's full orchestra, but anyway, every time I went up, they played Rule Britannia. And there was a beautiful starlet who was doing all the reading all out.
Very
And by
funny.
the time it got to the fourth one, or however many, I can't remember, she just looked at me and she went, "Oh, Neil, it's you again." By this time, I've had a couple of rum and coke.
Oh, God, I wish
did all the trophies make it back?
They did.
So
The one from Singapore might have got slightly broken. I've only ever admitted that now. I dropped it in the lift in the following morning.
I love that because
I packaged it up and sent it back to Singapore as if it got
broken in the
dodgy
transit.
post.
bloody Singapore Airlines.
on the poster itself, so it has a cassette inside the DJ's mouth.
Dates it slightly,
Stopping him speaking. So I've got to ask you, because I was from that era, is that a real cassette or is that a model? I'm trying to work out, because I've got a pretty big mouth, so I can get quite a few things in my mouth. I can get actually
3 or 4 cassettes.
Well, I can get a pint pot, by the way, if anyone's ever see that. It's on my CD.
We could have cast you, I think. We did cast people specifically. I mean, there was one chap who turned up that had it in sort of lengthways. Yeah, mate, we could all do that.
You've not read the brief.
Yeah. No, it shot. Yeah, it's in camera. Yeah, we've had to find.
It's good. It's good. I think because it feels very real. I mean, if you did it now, you'd be, let's just.
I want a copy of the casting
yeah.
brief because it goes out to the artist. Yeah. Must be able to fit a cassette.
Yeah, large, very large.
Yeah, sideways.
We're going to move swiftly on because we've got plenty to do. So thank you for that. That's very good. Go to South Africa now. So you ended up. How do you go from Leo Burnett in London, just winning some Clios and doing really well, and going, oh no, I'll go to South Africa? Was there a story there? A reason, or did you get a great offer, or what was it?
No, we were looking for a new adventure. So by this time I was working with Clive Pickering.
So how did you meet Clive?
He was already there at Leo's, where he joined after me.
Okay. How could you leave Richard Rutten? No, just actually, they're both.
There was a reshuffle.
Oh,
I ended up working with Clive. There was a bit more to it than that, but we haven't really got the time to go into the politics of that.
Unless it's like really interesting and juicy.
No, it's not. No, it's a bit
fine. So that's where Neil and Clive came. Neil and Clive.
Yeah, and so we were working at Leo's for a couple of years, but we were looking for a new adventure. And it was end of '93. There was a recession in the UK, and I said, well, do you know what? Maybe it's time that we do something different.
Yeah.
And I opened up the D&AD annual, and in it was a BMW ad with a mouse that runs along the steering wheel to announce power steering on the 3
Oh, yeah. Yeah, lovely that.
I said, look, this is Johannesburg. And I'd been to Johannesburg. I've been to South Africa on a holiday. It was a bit weird. I'd been on a holiday in 1989 before the end of apartheid.
Right.
But it was a pal of mine from school who, in the South African apartheid system, he was sort of middle tier.
Right.
Basically, if in the apartheid system there was white and the Japanese were honorary whites.
Right.
And then the next tier down was coloured and Indian, Chinese, and then black.
Right.
He was. So I travelled around South Africa and stayed at coloured townships.
Right. Wow.
As they were called then.
Amazing.
And so saw the country from, but you fall in love with the place.
Well, we'll just quickly look at this photo, because there's a photo of you meeting Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, that's where I was back. Yeah. I was back.
Oh, sorry, that's after.
Yeah. But you very quickly, going from, okay, let's try South Africa.
Yeah.
You ask a couple of questions of people, and you go, you don't know anybody who works in South Africa. Oh, I do, actually.
Right.
And within a few weeks or months, because they didn't get creative teams going that way, we were offered a job.
Great.
And
was it TBWA?
No, it was an independent agency called the White House. Actually,
Okay.
in Johannesburg. So we told everyone we were leaving, going to South Africa. They all thought we were mad. One of my not head of art, he was sort of senior art director at our leaving lunch. Just went, "You'll never work in London again."
Thanks, pal.
Thanks, pal. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah.
Do you want another drink?
Yeah. It was like, yeah. See a bar. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks. Headed off to South Africa. Oh, well, the other thing we should mention was when we landed. That was in the January. Mandela was elected in the April.
Oh, wow.
So we saw the birth of the Rainbow Nation.
Seismic shift.
Yeah.
In
That's what we
South
were
African
excited about.
culture,
We thought, wow, that's going to be, And and I always talk about that that ad, the BMW one, was that when the first creative team we met, when in the local bar next to the pub, because they're all agencies in a similar place, they heard our accents and they went, "Sorry, who are you?" So we just arrived from London. They said, "You are aware we're about to have a civil war." We hoped it would turn up better than that. And they said, "Why did you come here?" I said, "Well, we saw this ad with a mouse running on the steering wheel." And one of them looked at the other one, who was a bit sort of crestfallen. Right. And I went, "Sorry?" He went, "He did that ad." But he didn't get credit for it.
Oh, no.
And that's why, when earlier talking about our time at BBH and somebody trying to attach themselves to a piece of work, is why I feel really strongly about it, is because while...
That's terrible.
Well, it's because he wrote the idea in his year. He was in the month he was leaving, going to another agency, and the agency didn't see fit to. So his name is Kevin Kleinhans.
Kevin, this one's for you, buddy, and all the Kevins out there.
And he worked on it alongside Matthew Bull and Tony Granger, but. He got credited in the local awards and the Loeries by the time it got to
the biggies.
His name had dropped off it. So John Hunt, hold your head in shame.
Right. I think we should have a kind of little section in the show about
the wall of shame and fame. Readdress.
Yeah, Bosman for football.
Yeah,
changed contract. Maybe
ruling.
Kevin. What's his name?
Kleinhans.
Right. The Kevin Kleinhans clause. Yes, that's it.
There it is. Yeah.
Thou shalt never take an originator's name off a piece of work, even if they did it the day before they left.
It wouldn't have harmed anyone to just leave his name on it.
Yeah.
God, I feel like we're changing the world here. It's fucking great.
It was my favourite part of the speech, actually, I did at Kinsale, where I called Kevin in the middle of my speech, because I played the ad and said, "This is the ad that sent us to South Africa." And bear in mind, South Africa changed our careers completely.
Yeah.
Right.
It still gives me goosebumps talking about it.
Right, okay.
But you'll never work in London again, then?
Well, I never work in London again.
Not this part.
What was great was when we got to South Africa, the very first project I worked on, and there was a drunken Scottish producer. So he's Scottish, not even South African.
Right.
And in the build-up to making this ad, he went, "You see, you're only here because you're too shit to work in London." And I went, "What does that make you? You've been here 20 years, you drunken old sod." So you get shit when you leave, you get shit when you arrive.
Right, let's talk about the ad.
So yeah, we then moved to Cape Town, to TBWA Cape Town.
Yes.
Again, it's not what you do. You work in Johannesburg, but we live by the sea.
Right.
One of the clients was the aquarium in the waterfront there, and they had their own billboard outside the aquarium. So we'd do a new ad every month.
Wow. Open brief on that as well.
Yeah. And they were quite ahead of themselves in terms of, if you go to the next one with the...
So the one we're looking at is...
That's in the waterfront. That was when
opening ceremonies ribbon, which is being cut by a crab's claw.
Crab claw, yeah.
Open 13th November, 2 Oceans. So very sweet, very, very nice and lovely execution. And then the next one is what?
So that's at Clifton, one of the Clifton beaches, just outside Cape Town, where we're writing the messages in the beach, because it was an ethical. It was all about conservation. It wasn't about dolphins jumping through hoops and anything like that. It was all about research and protecting the ocean. So we did ads written on the beach, and then obviously the tide comes in and washes them away.
So it says even our ads are eco-friendly. Two Oceans Aquarium, which is great. I mean, that's quite ahead of its time. People do this now quite a bit on, but that must have been...
I know, and I see it now, and you just go, that was 1995.
Looking at my notes.
95.
Helicopter up to go and take the image.
The helicopter is actually from the local radio station, Good Hope FM.
Oh, okay.
We asked them, they said, you wouldn't mind just taking a picture as you're flying over.
Well done.
They went, yeah, all right.
That'd be a drone now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we're a drone now, yeah.
No, that's brilliant.
Because Clive was up here on the thing with walkie-talkie, and I was down there, and he went, "You've missed out a you in aquarium, you idiot."
No way.
It's quite, you've got to, you know.
But it was true. Well, you weren't making it.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. Yeah, I mean, this is a real standout piece of work. I mean, this
one of
is
the best beaches in Cape Town as well. Isn't it?
Okay, and then can we come back to London after that?
Yeah.
No, you'll never work in London again.
Never work in London again.
Only in this bit. So you come back to what was then BMP DDB.
Yeah.
And you must have walked into, wow, that must have been quite a department to go into.
Heck of a
quite a lot of Galacticos, possibly.
Yeah, I like that.
Who was there? Can you recall? Was it a bit intimidating?
It was very intimidating, yeah. I mean, it was on the back of the Tony Blair election. That's why there was quite a lot of work going on. That's why Tony got us in. I should say, and I love Tony Cox for hiring us. Jeremy Cragen got us in front of him. Tony looked at our work again. And he went, I quite like your work. And I thought, oh God.
I know, here's a but, yeah.
And he said, but I love your story of going to South Africa. He said, are you free on Monday? And he went, yes. He said, well, I'll take a 3-month trial. I'll pay you this. And he wrote figure down. And he went, and he said, is that okay? Okay. And he just went, yeah, didn't even hear one. And then he went, it doesn't look like very much, actually. And he added some more. And all I thought was, get out, Dawson. Get
Before
out.
you say...
Sounding freaking stupid.
Yeah.
I just got to the door frame and I just went, you're a wonderful man. And they walked out like cringing all the way down to the Prince of Wales. And Clive and I got absolutely
battered.
Yes.
Very good.
And which was a bit embarrassing because then the creative department that you're talking about all came down to the pub at about 8 o'clock.
With the new team who are
I think
smashed.
we'd seen Tony at 4:30, so we'd been in there from 5:30. By the time we were like, blah, 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 blah. And it was Rich Flintham and Andy McLeod.
No.
Dave Dye hadn't arrived then.
No. His shadow. It was foreshadowing.
Jerry and Mike Bowles and
Mike Bowles and sure.
Jeremy Cragen, Joanna Wenley, Nick Gill, Ewan Patterson.
Wow. That's not a bad setup. It's like a super group.
And we just went there and we just went, do you know what? We've got to try and do something that's going to be head and shoulders above everyone else, and that's going to be a real.
And how did you get onto V? Did you? Because I'm obviously going to go straight to surprisingly ordinary prices.
Yeah.
But did you get little sniffs of VW before then?
No. When we turned up, it's one of the first briefs we were given.
And were you given it alongside 3 other teams, or was it just you, or every fucker had it?
Any team could work on it.
Right. Okay. So you
got given a brief. You got given a brief, but anyone else could work on it as long as they'd done their work.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a. I remember at BBH Levi's, it was kind of like, oh, Rich and Andy got it, but anyone's going to work on it. And it was actually the worst thing, because if you were giving it like...
that feels a lot of pressure as well, because you're like... Oh.
But it was very... it was such a... It was intense, the competition. Yeah. But if you did something, people went, that's the one. That's the one.
And there's a mutual respect within the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Tony had created a doc system, a group head system. So Jeremy Cragen was in charge of most of VW things, but definitely surprising ordinary prices.
Yeah.
And we worked on it for a couple of years. Actually, these were the ones were actually year 2.
Right.
And for some reason, because we did all the print from year 2, a lot of people didn't work on it.
Right.
Which we just kept quiet.
Kept going. Yeah.
Just kept quiet.
Because the one we're looking at here, we're going to go into various order. Sorry, I kind of my order.
Yeah, cool.
But
this was in chronological order.
Yeah,
actually.
I was it, and I just didn't remember this because I saw it in the real world as opposed to seeing it, in D&AD, or it would have been. I suppose you didn't have Insta in those days, but it says, for your safety, please stand back from the edge of the platform. Polo L 7,990, and I remember thinking, fucking hell, I was very jealous. But loved it for what it was. And then there's so many sort of things you go through and then go, the art direction is so clever because it's of the genre of where we are. And, you know, so how did you get to this? It looks fucking easy here. Or what, you know, did you go in one night and think, oh, let's do that? Or did you come in one morning? Where did it come from?
Well, yeah, we were doing loads.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeremy is quite hard to get, you know, the bar's quite high. So you do a lot and you keep going and you keep going. And fortunately, because it was a kind of open brief, you know, while there was a deadline, there wasn't. You could, the more you did, the more you. Yeah. And, you know, Clive and I, we, in South Africa, you started at 8:30 in the morning. It's quite unusual for, you know. Yeah. And you'd think Cape Town.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, they probably only roll in at 11 after a bit of surfing.
Yeah.
No, 8:30. And so Clive and I, when we came back, we decided, because as our wives were used to that sort of time frame, we'd just carry on doing that. So we would get in at 8:30 and then we'd see other teams rock up and we'd just think, not only have we done our brief, we've done your brief.
Yeah. That's good because you get into a sort of a zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And literally, we went from Leo's, which wasn't the same. This was a meritocracy. The more you did, the more appetite you had, the more work you did, the more you got given, the more you could, as much as you could, you could do.
And was it a mix of out of home, cross track, print?
Yeah.
Was it a kind of
anything?
Yeah. So this next one, danger, risk of shock, is that a cross track as well?
That's cross track as well. Yeah. I've got a photograph of that. But I mean, the year before it had been all print. You know, we had a full page in the Telegraph with a tiny little, and as I said, we have withheld a surprisingly ordinary prices ad until we had verified that it does indeed cost £8,350.
Yeah. I love the tone of them. Is that's the thing. The VW tone is.
Well, and we were very lucky. You know, Jeremy had led this surprising ordinary prices, and then Andrew Fraser had done all the telly. So we were doing anything else that wasn't telly.
Yeah.
And that was a kind of open brief to do that, whether it was outdoor. We did radio as well with the sort of Tales of the Unexpected.
Yeah, I love that one. I love it. But what I love about it is you can go from, you know, parodying a cross track in all its language to chip shot paper where the guys dropped everything. So it's a really great photograph. Quite a hard thing to pull off that in photography. Who was it who shot that? I think
his name's Paul Rees. Brilliant. I mean, we were going for the sort of, who's the very famous guy who catches, oh God, my mind's gone.
Don't worry, it'll come back to you. But I love the vulgarity of it. It's such a, well, we talked earlier with Guy about, sorry, not earlier, in a previous episode, sorry, about Levi's, but a media neutral idea that you can go and be illustrated, you can have photography. I mean, there's one here, which is actually a lenticular. So it says on one side, if you look at it, or if it...
while you're standing up, it says you'll need to sit down to read this.
Polo L.
So it's kind of the reverse lenticular is height rather than left to right, it's up and down.
So nice. Clever. It must be so sort of liberating to sort of...
Well, that's it. I mean, these days, obviously, technology has moved on a pace. Whenever the poster companies would come in and say, we would always go to that meeting.
Yeah.
To say, we can now do this.
It's a new technique, yeah.
Yeah. So
edible paper. Oh, that sounds fun.
When they say we can now, you know, those lenticular things that you get in cereal packets with an eye, we can now do them yay big. We went, fuck, okay, Clive.
Yeah.
Back to the office.
It looks like everyone is on their game and they're going, right, what about over here? Try it there.
But that's the beauty of the freedom of a tight brief, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you've got that clarity, then it can go anywhere and look like anything because the thinking is exactly the same.
And were you writing them, so you and Clive beavering away, and were you seeing Jeremy all the time? Was he wandering past was it on the wall? How did you get that? When did you know, because we talked about The Economist quite a lot on the show, and you know, there'll be a pile of, you know, just a massive pile, and possibly 10 would get made in a year or so. I don't know. Was there a number around VW surprisingly low prices?
And as I said, for some reason, I mean, a lot of people didn't. It was sort of seen as, that's Neil and Clive's thing.
Right. So they kind of
so we didn't have as much competition as a second. I remember Ed Edwards and Dave Masterman were also, they were very sort of prolific and
yeah.
And a lot of time we'd be elbowing away into the creative department, and sometimes with the same ad.
Fuck.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at
we've had
exactly the
Dave
same
on.
time. When we had, with on the Labour Party, when, they were doing tactical ads in the run up to the election,
Right.
things about knife crime and stuff like that, and we were elbowing our way into the.
Yeah. So we are now looking at. I think you said, or I've read
Focus
somewhere.
Ball,
Is still the most awarded print ad in the history of advertising.
Legitimate print ad. Yeah.
VW Wedding. So of all of them, obviously this is the most famous. It's a brilliant idea. It's a married couple out of focus, and in the background there's a bus side with the price in focus. That's very easy for me to say that. How did you get to it? Was it just one of them, or was it the one that you got to towards the end, or did it sit there and you think, fucking hell, this is the best, or how did it happen?
Well, it was year 2.
Right.
The year 1 was when we were doing, it's almost like first person. So it was like, this ad's been removed, whereas this was actually showing the effect, the surprise on other people, in this case the photographer, or in the other case we're dropping the chips.
Yeah.
And as I said, we just, it was a constant turnover of ideas, that kept on and on and on. And I mean, we did like this a lot. And, I was sellotaping 3 pens together to do the sort of out of focus bit. But we didn't really realise that it was going to have quite the effect that it did, I don't think. I mean, Clive and I, we'd actually been to the awards the night before for the posters you've just shown. And then Clive and I went down to Worthing for this, and we were both feeling like dog shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd had a long night at the Grosvenor House, and
to shoot this, then the next day.
To shoot this, the next day, yeah. So,
no wonder it's blurred. I mean,
well, exactly.
Sorry. Easy.
And in fact, Clive and I used this as a photograph for ourselves. There was an article about partnerships, long-standing partnerships. So we substitute Clive and I in this.
Have you got a copy of that?
Yeah.
We'd love to include it.
Okay. So we're both out of focus.
Yeah.
I'm the groom, by the way, because I'm slightly.
Yeah. So. I reckon, Dan, we're moving on.
Yeah, we are. So after that, left BMP and a very successful stint at BBH, where you did the fish ad for Johnny Walker, and where you also met Hugh.
Yeah, that's where we met, didn't we? BBH.
And then on to TBWA. And
a bit of Adidas.
Yeah.
Where, again, probably another I remember trying to get into that department. There was obviously Trevor Beattie, Paul Silburn, McTeer. I think you two.
We got McTeer in, actually. He joined after us, yeah.
It was like another one. And we'd keep seeing Silburn for lunch going, all right, mate, it's because it was when Saatchi's were around the corner.
Oh yeah,
we just pop over, go for a drink. We should go for a drink in your. I mean, it was just like, it was relentless how much and it was the place. I remember the reception and the clients, John Smith and PlayStation and that. It's like, oh God, it really was, and it was an incredible setup. So yeah, we were very jealous and wanting to be there. But you did some great stuff there. But particularly, obviously for us, it's the outdoor stuff we're interested in. So we're looking at another store opening, and dare I say, another ribbon being cut.
I'm afraid it is. Yeah.
Now,
I'm trying to work out how many years there were between one and the other.
It's got to be more than 5.
I think it's nearly 10.
Well, don't you own the copyright because you did it? My idea.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I mean, I have to be gracious, but actually there are 3 teams named on this, because you talk about elbowing your way into the...
No, let's hear them.
A BMP, if you were first in,
right,
and then somebody comes in after you with it, it's like, sorry.
First in. Okay.
The TBWA was a bit more woolly than that. So there were Pete and Carl.
Yeah.
Had this idea, Clive and I, and the boys who went to the BBC.
Lauren and
just go on to the next ad.
We'll come back to it.
Him. He was one of the creatives. Chris Boville and
John Allison.
John Allison. Thank you.
Very good. So the poster we're looking at is using the three stripes from the Adidas logo around this building that's going to be opened. It's their new store, and there's some scissors going to cut them. I love it because because I can see it in situ, and that's something in the old days you didn't have so much of, and now like it's much easier when you see stuff in situ. It's much more. It's sort of satisfying, isn't it? You're going, I see it in the real world. You know?
Yeah,
and they did that all through the tube and the
through the tunnels.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. You've touched upon this, right? So we've got to talk about this briefly because I was obviously trying to gather all your stuff, and you go, well, you got any more? You got this, and then you trawl the websites, and you say, yeah, this one, don't do that one, whatever. And so we found this one. So it's a bloke with no shirt on and just a pair of jeans, and on his back it says the new Newcastle shirt out 23rd of May, Adidas, and it's all written in a sort of like felt pen. It's brilliant on a number of reasons for me. One, because I know Newcastle fans are famous for like taking their tops off. What time?
In the winter.
In the winter.
Yeah.
It's obviously about a shirt, but there's no shirt. He walks around, so he's outdoors. It's just it's just so lovely. I'd never seen this before. Scam. Right. Didn't happen. Moving on. Seriously. Right.
Well,
okay.
Proactive.
Well, proactive. It happened because he's walking down the street.
It did, yeah.
Okay.
I think it was sanctioned, but I think it was proactive. It was sanctioned.
Proactive. Well, we'll just leave it on there. And the next picture, actually, funny enough, I know it's not a thing, but it's a cover of Campaign Posters magazine, which is in the form of a French. Well, how do you describe it? So you did that.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Just briefly, I'm very interested. Why did you do the cover of?
We ended up doing quite a few things for Campaign.
Right. Okay.
There's.
He's looking. He's rubbing his face. It's something else dodgy.
There is. How did you know?
I don't know. It's just that lying thing. We've had many people in this booth who do that.
Well, I tell you what. The reason it's because another team, and it'll be bringing up something that I'm sure they don't want to be brought up.
Okay,
but
we
ended up doing quite a lot of them, and that was the magazine cover as well as.
I remember I've actually got that at home because I've kept them all.
Toulouse-Lautrec is like the original poster maker, and and also. Campaign poster, like a lot of those award shows, was a bit sort of
bit of a night out,
tasty, like I'm sure like it was in Paris those days.
Get your best frock on,
get
a bit of a knees up.
Yeah, right.
I'd forgotten about this in my script, Dan, but I'm going to say this word,
Coburn's.
That's why I love you. So it's for a sherry, called
Coburn's.
Okay. Pronounced Coburn's, but on the page, if I was an American, I go Cockburns.
Yes,
which immediately makes me think something even worse.
I saw a really good read. I'm not on TikTok, so I saw it on Instagram. Someone reposted it from TikTok, and it says the words you say out loud wrong. Man's laughter. No, it's manslaughter, obviously. Man's laughter. American. Man's laughter. Man's laughter.
The Leicester Square.
Indeed.
So Coburn's, no one had done this. It's a headline that
I'll tell you what. So this was the first campaign for BETC London.
I was going to say a bit of work from there.
And the Coburn's, as you know, the pronunciation goes back to the 80s. There were famous commercials about Cockburns in a submarine with Russians. I can't remember. We brought it back. They wanted an outdoor campaign, but we then added end line, pronounce responsibly.
Yeah.
And then each one of them is censoring. And for me, this is my, when you're talking about outdoor, I'm not so fan of little fiddly things. Like when you've got, we just started BETC London.
Yeah.
And I'm on the top deck of the bus going up the Euston Road, and this comes up on the one above the underpass just by, and I was like, fucking great.
Yeah, yeah.
It was big, bold.
Yeah.
Because we have to describe it says Coburn's, but the glass of sherry covers up the C and the K. So it makes it how you should say it. Sorry, I'm being obvious, but for our listeners.
Absolutely.
So it says Coburn's. For me, this is one of the greatest because it epitomises what a poster is about. There's like, how many words? 3. And one of them has been sort of messed with to enhance the idea. I mean, I don't understand. I thought this was the beginning of a fucking great campaign, like, through the bottle sort of thing, Smirnoff. Absolute. I mean, I presume it's now not.
Yeah. Well, we had one that was, it was at Clapham Junction, right near by the train line, where all the trains go by. But it was one where the paper had been ripped.
Yes.
So you could see the metal panels behind. And somebody from the poster company went by and went, somebody better fucking get down to it because before the client sees that, because it looks rubbish. So, it worked that well. So,
and did you get to that? Because we've got to do something with the way you say it, but then did you quickly get to just put the glass in the way?
Again, it was just going back to, I mean, we love the fact that adding an end line and pronounced responsibly, but we just wanted to do just classic posters. 2D.
And it really is a classic poster.
2D, and that's what, again, it's why when you get to my favourite poster, I mean, it's very difficult to pick a favourite poster, but I picked something quite mundane and 2D.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And just a simple announcement of something that has...
we should choose one of these last two because we haven't got time for both to talk about. Either A6 or War Museum. Which one would you
do A6.
So A6. You talked about your client earlier. Obviously, you've got a great relationship. I've seen this campaign a lot on LinkedIn, and it's really, really sweet, bringing sort of mind and body together through the trainer. Was that from the get-go, that was the strategy?
Well, I mean, I have wonderful clients there who, again, it's the freedom of a tight brief. They've distilled their brand down back to sound mind, sound body. It had sort of meandered off into something a little bit more complicated in the last few years, and Gary and Fisher brought it back to something that was as how the brand was founded, about sound mind, sound body. So
we're looking at a brain scan, and the shape of the brain, you can see the soles of the trainers.
Yeah,
so it's lovely visual.
Or you're looking at an X-ray of a rucksack with some shoes in.
No, it isn't. You were right the first time. You don't let him confuse you. You were right.
See his face.
Fuck. You bastard.
And you know what? It's the same with all of these things, is that all the outdoor that we talk about, our job is to distill things down to as fewer elements as possible. And that's what's great about outdoor. It's what's great about the best outdoor.
I think what I love about this is it's a space you can own, because it's fucking busy trainers, isn't it? It's like there's a few brands, Nike, Adidas, but there's also then below that. But then this is very much, it feels right for them. So,
well, and again, you end up working on a brand that, in that space. Nike tried to touch on mental health and whatever, but the brand was founded on this premise in 1949,
where it feels more truthful.
And that's the authentic. That's why you can authentically have that conversation. Whereas
Absolutely.
I think when it's fashionable
but also,
to talk about it, then we'll talk about it, right?
And whereas actually their name A6 is actually an acronym for the Latin for a sound mind and a sound body.
Really.
Yeah.
Wow. And also you can feel it from the client because they're investing in it rather than being right. We must finish. So it's been a little bit of a rush towards the end. It's your fault. You've got too much good work. We're looking at one of your favourite posters. Now, you reason you chose this, you wanted to choose a two-dimensional poster, didn't you? Nothing too fancy, something just a classic. It's McDonald's pizza, right?
Yeah, it was the first time that they'd included pizza on the menu. It was a brief that came into Leah Burnett at the time. Do you know Small Paul Copeland?
Right, no.
It was him and his partner, and sorry, I can't remember who
Don't worry.
On it with. They got the brief, they came up with this, and everybody went, why didn't we get the brief?
Yeah.
Tuts will comment on the post and he'll tell us exactly who worked on it.
Yeah, Tuts will be up on it. He'll tell us.
I'm absolutely certain. By the way, Tuts was the person that the creative director wanted Richard Russell to work with.
Right.
But no, Tuts and I are still pals, actually. So it's...
Tuts made your career, Matt Clive.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Richard.
But yeah, so, it's just a...
Yeah, it's a belter, isn't it?
When you get that, reductive down to you don't even have to put another logo on it. It's there.
It's 5 letters, not 5 words. 5 letters. Yeah. And I always so love the chip with a bit of ketchup at the end, and it's the fiery chips. But
hot dog
fiery
as well.
fries.
Brilliant.
But
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much there, bit, and we'll make sure we'll take out all the sort of legal bits which we've all fucked up on.
Were there any?
No, I think it went really smoothly. That's fine. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in.
And thanks for drawing as well. You're only the second person who's bothered with that. Rosie Arnold and Neil.
Well, great to see you, Hugh,
Neil
and
Dawson.
Cousin.
Yeah, seeing a family reunion.
We'll work out how
I'll bring the family,
distantly related
family tree in. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Seriously, I've got it. It goes back to the 1500s. My grandfather had a lot of time with him. I'll shut up now.
Right, so that was amazing. The fact that the first thing he did was he drew the layout of his first ever poster. I mean, who would remember that? That's a bit spooky, right? And he drew it quite well.
Someone said, didn't you?
Rosie.
Oh, Rosie did it.
But it wasn't, I think it was a Red Nose Day idea she had for Richard Curtis or something.
Tim do it as well?
No, maybe. They're proper artists, these people. But it was good. It was fascinating. I mean, God, like you said, we crammed it in there at the end. We could have gone a bit too far. I don't know. It's good to do it in one, right?
Yeah. That was very good. Thank you, Neil. Very.
There's a lot to cover there. I mean, I didn't really realise South Africa was such a big deal.
I'm so glad he worked again in London after going to South Africa.
Oh, God, I hate those people.
Such a twatty thing to say to people, isn't it? And I've got a couple of friends who have left to go and work in the Middle East, and at their leaving days, people say the same thing. Well, you never come back and work in London again, right?
Well, that's your point.
I'm a fucking rock star. I'll go wherever I want.
Yeah, no, forget that. No, he was great, and I think you've been long overdue. You know, some people say to us, well, you've not had Sanyo on yet. So, he was definitely been on our list. And Clive, if you're listening, we would more than happy to have you. We'll probably have to wait for a bit and everyone forget Neil stories and get Clive back in. Right. So thanks again, Soho Radio. Thank you again, Talon, our brilliant sponsors. It's a pleasure doing this, and we're so lucky to have you backing us. So thank you so much.